Okay.
Okay, good, thanks. And recording right on. Good afternoon, welcome to council. Monday, February 14th, 22. Happy Valentine's, everybody out there. Hope you're having a great day. As always, just remember to turn off your mobile devices onto vibrate or silent mode, and we'll get on with the business. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? I'm going to add on a couple under the boards from council reports. Report from appointed members to the boards, which will be Roma updates from the town's meetings as well as AMO and NOMA meetings. Anybody else? Nothing? Okay. I have a motion here that council hereby accepts the agenda for Monday, February 14th, 2022, regular meeting of council as circulated amended. Moved by
Councillor Valance.
Thank you. Councillor Lake. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
I'm sorry, Your Worship. Who's first? Who moved it?
Councillor Valance, Councillor Lake. Okay, up next we have any disclosure of interest today?
I have one on the NOSM new business.
Okay. Item C under new business, Councillor Lake declare conflict on that. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Great. I have a motion here from the previous minutes of council that were held on Monday, January 10th, 22, and of course, the special meeting of council were held on Monday, January the 31st, 2022, and also the closed meeting of council were held on Monday, January 10th, 2022, and Monday, January 31st, 2022, as circulated or amended. Mover and seconder for that?
Councillor Lake.
Councillor Valance.
Thank you. Any questions, errors, or omissions in those minutes? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Up next, we have a delegation with us this afternoon. Darlene Cross was the chairperson of the Marathon Waterfront Recreational Advisory Committee, and that committee was formed to discuss the enhancements of the boat launch Cummings Beach area. And it was a great committee. I sat on it, and Darlene did a great job chairing it. So we'll listen to her overview of the committee's recommendations back to council administration. Good afternoon, Darlene.
Oh, good afternoon. Greetings, council and mayor. Again, I'll repeat, my name is Darlene Cross, speaking on behalf of the Waterfront Recreation Advisory Committee. With a government grant of $100,000, the Waterfront Recreation Advisory Committee, or WRAC, was established to provide input regarding accessibility improvements to a section of waterfront extending from the boat launch to Cummings Beach. As chair of the WRAC, I'm here to deliver the committee's top 4 recommendations, to which we believe will provide immediate and strategic benefit without altering the rugged beauty of the landscape. Number 1, washroom accessibility. Under previous funding, an accessible washroom was built next to the fish cleaning shack. While technically accessible, the area around it is not. The washroom is above ground level and lacks a properly sloped access from the parking area. The committee recommends that the current funding be used to address these issues. Number 2, hazard removal. Given the area was once used to raft timber destined for the local pulp mill, there are remnants of steel cables and anchoring equipment along the shoreline, which the committee saw as a potential hazard and eyesore and recommends removal. Number 3, rehabilitation of the beach. Immediately greeting visitors to the area is the boat launch on the left and a sand-covered beach to the right. The committee recommends increasing the beach's attraction by rehabilitating the area destroyed during the landing and removal of the Peninsula tugboat, as well as other modest landscaping and tree planting. Finally, number 4, bridge. At the far end of the walking trail towards Shock Creek is Cummings Beach, whose access is challenging due to sloping ground and crossing of the Shock Creek. The committee recommends a modest railing and footbridge. Furthermore, this would improve shoreline access towards Carden Cove. On behalf of the Waterfront Recreation Advisory Committee, we thank you and ask that any remaining funds be put towards an accessible picnic table, additional seating, and signage.
Great, thanks for that report, Darlene, and ask council members if they have any questions directly of Darlene on that report. Councillor Lake.
Yeah, thanks for your work on that, Darlene. I think those are great things we can do right away. The accessibility obviously is one that we have to do. The one that actually piques my interest is I'm always amazed that, you know, in this little municipality, we have a river that runs through our municipality that has both a sucker run and a salmon run. Steelhead are also in there. It is, to me, a really remarkable space down at that Cumming Beach space. So I'm happy to see, it's the first time I've really heard a plan to put a little bridge in there. Just wondering, either through your work or touching on it, like, how do you do it? Those fish obviously in that river are pretty important. How do we build any structure down there and keep the wildlife safe? So that would be, I'd love to see that project go forward, but for sure kind of working with to make sure we keep the fish safe. But I love that you nailed that one, because to me that is just an incredible asset that the community has, right? There's not many salmon rivers in the middle of municipalities. So I was really happy to hear you identify that one.
So Councillor Lake, the idea is to have a footbridge that'll override the creek itself. So it'll be maybe 4 or 5 feet above the creek, and it'll span maybe 6 or so feet on each side of the proper footing, maybe off the rock on one side because of the area, and onto the foundation would be onto the sand on the other. So the committee looked at it and addressed all those concerns and talked about the fish habitat in the creek. So yeah, it's going to be addressed within the design and construct of that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Did I cover that, Darlene? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else of Darlene on that report? So on behalf of this council, Darlene, I want to thank you and all the other members who took the time out to, Councillor DeBouche, you had something?
Oh.
No?
1 second. How much funds are left available for these enhancements?
Well, there was $100,000 fund in total. So the administration will now work on what the costing are of those items that were identified by the committee. So the top 4 items were identified. There was many other items, but the top 4 are going to be addressed, and administration will now look at that and look at, we don't know what the cost will be for even the enhancement to the accessibility or the footbridge or the rehab of the beach area. So once that's the committee, the administration will bring back a report on what that looks like over the next month or two.
Okay.
Thanks. So on behalf of the council, Darlene, I want to thank you and all the other committee members for taking time out over the last several months of walking the area, understanding it, and giving back a really good report. And it's good to see that the community has involvement in the enhancement of our recreational activity areas. Thanks a lot for that participation.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming today. You're more than welcome to sit on and stay if you like, but we're going to get right back into the regular business of council. Thanks, Darlene. Okay, up next we have the council report on the appointment to committees, library board, copy to all members. I have a motion here, and that pursuant to the municipality's procedure bylaw, I'm bringing forward a report on the appointment of council members and residents to the town committees and boards. At this time, the Marathon Public Library will be accepting the application of Katerina Dumas. The appointment will expire on November the 14th, 2022. This has been respectfully submitted, and I need a mover and a second to put the motion on the floor.
I'll move
Councillor
it.
Lake?
Councillor Valence.
Okay, we got Councillor Valence and Councillor Lake. And that the council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on the appointment to the committee, library board, and further that the appointment be accepted and presented with the appointment expiring on the date of November the 14th, 2022. Any questions? Councillor Lake?
Yeah, just checking in that gives us a quorum at the library board, but there still could be additional spaces, or are we full now?
Nope, that's 5, and there was always a quorum availability with the board structure as it was, but now this brings their full complement to 5, and then that board is set.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you.
Great. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. Up next, we have, of course, our student council reports. We'll start off with Councillor Kavner. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. So for my update, at the beginning of January, we returned to in-person schooling, and as of January 31st, we have officially returned to semesters, which essentially means that instead of having 2 blocks like we did in quadmesters, we have 4 blocks, which are about 75 minutes each, instead of 2 blocks, which were about 2.5 hours. Before school, students are required to complete a COVID screening test. It can be accessed through the provincial website, but students have to submit their results through EDSB so that school activities can continue in a safe environment. The screening does update periodically, so it's recommended that students visit the actual website each day and complete the screening instead of just turning in the EDSB report. School sports practices have returned after a break. The first couple sports returned last week, and the teams that haven't returned to practice will be returning this week. Picture Retake Day is going to be coming up on the 17th at 1 p.m. For any students who weren't happy with the original photos, and grad photos will be we'll be receiving an update on grad photos in the near future. Progress reports will be out or are supposed to be out around the end of next week. And Dilico Mental Health is offering a drop-in mental health clinic in the culture room on February 24th. So students can come meet the team, ask questions, or have a one-on-one counseling session if they need it.
Great, thanks for the report. Somebody's got to take their pictures over again, so not happy with it. That's awesome. Councillor Mischicks, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. So to start us off, Marathon High School students, as well as some of the elementary school students with Superior Greenstone District School Board, filled out the I Am surveys today. This was a school board survey to get a better understanding of the student population and the barriers that might be preventing some students from getting the best education possible. Open Gym will be returning to Marathon High School in the upcoming weeks. Our child and youth worker has put out a schedule for that. So that'll be good. It'll give some students the opportunity to work on some of their sports skills and, de-stress a bit. Let's see. There will be a women's group starting up next week. This will be in collaboration with the Marjorie House. It's open for all students that identify as female. It will focus on abuse, how to recognize the signs, and how to prevent an abusive relationship. So that'll be good. That should be starting up next week. The bathrooms at Marathon High School now have free feminine products for all students that need them. This is a new initiative in the school to help educate and provide students with safe products. It's funded by the Period Purse, a non-profit based in Canada. And to quote one of the school board's workers, Hillary Freeburn, we want to break down barriers to ensure all individuals who menstruate have what they need to learn and be active within their school communities. So that's a big initiative for the high school.
Great, thanks for that. And it's also a great initiative that is supplying those products throughout Canada for students who can't afford them either because they're quite expensive. So it's good to see that program has been initiated right here in our community. So thanks for that report. We'll get right into it. Anybody have any questions of the student councillors? Thanks a lot for the reports. Up next, we have a report on land disposition, Holy Savior School. Mr. Skorczynski, please.
So Town of Marathon Bylaw number 1617 is the bylaw that regulates the sale and dispositions of municipal land. It is the duty of the clerk to report to council from time to time with respect to land which may be considered surplus to the requirements of the municipality, expression of interest in municipal lands, and the recommended method of disposing of lands considered for disposition. It is the responsibility of the clerk to obtain an independent appraisal prior to consideration by council to sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of lands. This is not required when the disposition is to a public body such as a school board. Administration has been approached by the Superior North Catholic District School Board with a land donation request for Holy Savior School. The request is in your package with respect to the land piece. The school would like to use the land to create an outdoor learning space which will include land-based learning and Indigenous programming such as nature trails, medicinal gardens, and enhanced play areas. The requested parcel is currently zoned open space and would not need to be rezoned for the intended use. The land size requested is approximately 1.8 acres. Administration does not foresee the municipality having any further need for the small piece of land based on its location and zoning. The method to be used to dispose of lands for the municipality includes public auction, public tender, direct sale, land exchange, call for proposals, and listing of the property with a real estate broker. Council may, by bylaw or resolution, establish an acceptable minimum reserve bid, fix any other term or condition of the sale, direct that the sale will be subject to the requirements of an agreement of purchase and sale, and delegate to the clerk the authority to settle terms and conditions of the agreement of purchase and sale. Where council has determined that land is no longer required for municipal purposes, it may declare the land surplus, approve the manner or process by which the disposition of the land will be carried out. The land in question has not been declared surplus by the municipality at this time. Superior North Catholic District School Board has asked that this land be donated by the municipality. Based on the size of the land parcel and its location, administration estimates its value to be less than $5,000. Administration is proposing that council declare the land parcel surplus, utilize the direct sale method, that an amount of $10 be the fixed price, and that an agreement of purchase and sale be transacted between the school board and the town. Financially, a $10 sale fee will be recognized through the transaction. The school board has agreed to pay the costs with legal and surveying to sever the property and create the necessary registration and title documents. This generally carries approximately an $8,000 cost. Options to council: A, declare the land surplus to municipal needs at this time and undertake a direct land sale with the Superior North Catholic District School Board, and with the CAO clerk authorized to transact the agreement of purchase and sale. Do not approve the request at this time. And your administration submits this report for council's consideration and direction.
Great, thanks. I do have a motion here that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on land disposition at the Holy Savior School, and that the property as described in the CAO report is deemed surplus to the municipality's needs, and further that the CAO clerk is hereby authorized to proceed with the sale of the land to the Superior North Catholic District School Board by transacting the agreement of purchase and sale on behalf of the town of Marathon. Moved by
Councillor Valence.
Councillor Tabushi, Councillor Valence. Questions? Councillor Tabushi.
Yeah, so we don't receive direct taxation from, I'll say, institutions, government institutions. Would this increase our in lieu of taxes if we give this land to the Catholic School Board?
I'll defer that question to Mr. Verbo.
The school board do not pay any taxes whatsoever, so there would be no payment in lieu increase.
Okay, Councillor Lake.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great initiative. I think certainly as a council, we've been interested in, I mean, I think the space is used for Indigenous learning, which I think is great. I just wonder if there is, I mean, I know they fence off school properties, but is there any way to either through signage or through portions of that land to have some of that stuff accessible to the public, you know, just as we go forward and say, here's the land, but I mean, that's valuable learning for everybody. And we've been pretty good, I think, at building trails. I look at that Penn Lake Trail and think it's amazing. So I don't know if that is in some way it can become a bit of a public asset as well as a school asset. And that's, I mean, maybe just something we could ask as they look at building.
Yeah, that's certainly a legitimate request, and happy to have that conversation with the school board and the principal.
Councillor Valence.
With there being two school boards present in that property, this isn't in collaboration, right? This is just the one school board working independently.
This is a Holy Savior School initiative.
Thank you.
Councillor Debussy.
So in the sense that the value of the land is only $5,000, was there a reason why a provincially funded entity couldn't afford to pay that money or whatnot? I mean, from the perspective of we had to pay for the former Marathon public school property, why is it not quid pro quo in that situation?
Well, if council chooses to go back to the school board and request an additional purchase price, that's certainly within your purview. I wouldn't compare the former Penn or former Stevens Avenue transaction and this one. I think this checks a number of our boxes from a corporate strategic plan perspective. And in all honesty, the property is not something that we would see being developed just, where it is located next to the school. So from a, partnership perspective, administration feels that, by the school board, coming forward and paying the costs of the severance and the necessary legal fees covers off the cost of what would be earned through a transaction such as $5,000.
Councillor Valens, another question? Okay, so I have no problem with it going over $10 either. The only thing I'd like to see in the clause, Mr. Skrzynski, would be that if in the future the school is to close or for whatever reason, the property would be transferred back to municipality for $10. As Councillor Debuchy noted, the public school transaction was quite costly to the municipality. So I would want to see any lands coming back to us for the same value we sold it to for.
That's a fair request and certainly something we generally include in our agreements. So that's noted.
Thanks. Councillor Debuchy.
Yeah, one more thing. We won't have to incur any costs for access either through culverts or another laneway or driveway access off Hemlow Drive. It'll be all access through their existing property and their access points.
That's correct. There's no cost to the municipality for any infrastructure.
So if there were any costs to be incurred, they're agreeable to all those extra costs. To say if they wanted to put a washroom in there and they wanted water sewer, they're eligible, so we will not have to pay for those additional costs.
No, those would be costs borne by whether it was a school board or a private developer, and in the event they wanted to look at an alternative driveway or a culvert, those are all permitted through our fees and charges.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay, carried. Up next, we have report on the declaration of surplus equipment. Mr. Skrzynski.
So the town of Marathon has normally sold surplus items at the annual community garage sale, which you haven't been able to have because of COVID, or by the public tender process. Municipal departments were asked for a list of surplus items with only one item being submitted in 2022. And that's at the fire department. We have one 1996 Superior pumper. Once declared surplus, as per bylaw number 1822, administration will proceed with the sale of the fire pumper on the GovDeals website. The asking price will be $15,000. Any proceeds generated from the sale of town items will be deposited into the capital equipment replacement reserve fund. Tongue-tied today. Your administration recommends that council declare the 1996 Superior pumper surplus, thereby authorizing administration to proceed with the sale of the item, and that any proceeds of the sale be deposited into general operating and reserves.
Great, thanks for that report. I have a motion that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on declaration of surplus equipment, and that the 1996 Superior pumper is hereby deemed surplus to the needs of the municipality, and further that administration is authorized to proceed with the sale of the item, and any proceeds from the sale of this will be deposited in general operating and reserves accounts. Moved by
Councillor Valens.
Councillor Debuchy.
I got Councillor Valens, Councillor Debuchy. Councillor, you got a question?
Yeah, I did. I was wondering. So we have that agreement with Barrick, right, to do fire service out there, and I think we keep a vehicle out there. Do we? So I'm wondering if we have the same thing with generation. If that goes forward, would this pumper be a good fit for that role, which might only be a year or two away, or is that is it not worth keeping it for that purpose?
Yeah, I would say no, it's not. Based on where they're at with the process, it's highly likely we'll probably entertain a discussion around fire protection with the municipality just because of the proximity to Marathon. And in this case, I would recommend that we earn the $15,000 and apply it to our 2022 budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and generation actually being within the municipal boundaries, Ray, they fall under our Fire Protection Act, so there might be a separate agreement because of the industry, like we did with other industries and having a partnership. But yeah, okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Debuchy?
Yeah, just on that same thing that when Councillor Lake mentioned about the equipment out at the mines, are they in need of a pumper out there, or is it redundant, or it isn't worth from that perspective?
My take would be that when we put it on GovDeals, it's open for sale. If it's required, then they can certainly purchase it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Thank you very much. Up next, we have a report on the boat launch, Peninsula Harbor fees. Mr. Skorczynski.
So at the regular meeting of council on December 13th, 2021, administration brought forward the recommended municipal fees and charges for 2022. Administration requested direction from council on boat launch fees. These new fees were approved in January 2021. Council agreed overall that there should be a fee increase, but directed administration to relook at options for boat launch fees, including motorized versus non-motorized vehicle use. In 2021, administration researched 8 different marina landing boat launches across Ontario with similarities to Peninsula Harbor. The facilities all differed to some extent, as each facility offered different services and availabilities, but overall, they provided a solid research baseline for comparison purposes. Based on this research, administration was able to develop a fee structure that was brought forward to council for approval. Based on the foregoing and the fact that the overall industry remains unchanged, administration is recommending a 25% increase for 2022 fees over 2021. This would look like a daily fee of $12.50, a weekend fee of $26.25, and a seasonal fee of $75. In 2021, $4,800 was generated in revenue, while costs were $52,000, resulting in $47,500 being subsidized by the property tax levy. Implementing this new fee structure will move towards a more balanced user pay versus tax subsidization formula. Administration is not recommending that there be a different fee structured for motorized versus non-motorized vehicles. The labor, resources, and costs for maintaining the facility are applicable for all user types. Financially, based on the above noted fee structure, 2022 fees are estimated to generate $6,100 in revenues.
Great, thanks.
Council's options are include the new fees for accessing the boat launch in the 2022 fees and charges bylaw and amend bylaw number 2016, or do not implement the new fees for the boat launch in 2022 and maintain 2021 fee levels. Administration presents this proposal for council's consideration and approval.
Thanks for that report. I have a motion here that council hereby accepts the attached report on the boat launch Peninsula Harbor 2022 fee, and the council approves the new fees and for accessing the boat launch in 2022 fees and charges bylaw, and further that the bylaw amending the 2022 fees and charges bylaw be brought forward at the next council meeting scheduled for February 28, 2022. Moved by
Councillor Lake.
Councillor Valens.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor Lake.
Yeah, just I mean, I think a couple. One I was just wondering about is like the increase. I think is reasonable, and we've done a nice job down there. We've got the nice fish shack. I just know. So will it be the same as last year, where if you buy the seasonal fee, you get a fob for the fish shack? And then I was wondering about. So say somebody comes down for the weekend, has that weekend pass. Will they be able to access the fish shack at all, or is that just going to be for the seasonal users?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So yes, for our residents that purchase a seasonal pass, they will get the fob for usage. At this point, what administration is looking at on weekend usage is having it open during hours on the weekend and having staffing over the course of the spring, summer, fall seasons in that department to look after that facility, as well as things like the washroom, etc.
That's awesome. Okay, straight.
Councillor Debussy.
Okay, good. There we go. So has that attendant fee, I guess, has that incorporated? So that would basically increase our costs at the boat launch in 2022 as opposed to 2021, because the increase in revenue would be eaten up by, I'm assuming, the attendant?
From a cost center perspective, it would increase the amount of labor at that facility. But in terms of the overall budget, we would utilize one of our summer positions to cover it off. So it wouldn't be an increase to budget or an increase to complement. It would just change where the labor costs got charged to a certain cost center.
Councillor
And
Lake.
just,
Oh,
oh, sorry, just a follow-up, you may.
Yep.
Since we had a hard time filling staff last year, at what rate are we going to, or are we going to have to increase or what not to attract employees, or do you find possibly this summer we'll have a better chance of attracting summer employees?
That's a very good question. It really depends year to year. In some years we have a lot of quality applications for our summer positions, and in a lot of years we don't. I would say this year, we're always hopeful. I think, one of the advantages that working for us is generally, through your high school and post-secondary careers, if you're a good worker for the municipality, you can generally count on having, that summer employment. So we once again applied to the federal government for funding, and hope to have our complement of approximately 30 positions in the summer. And we should know that approval, I would expect, within the next month or so.
Councillor Lake.
Yeah, thanks. And I know, Councillor Gingras was the one who really was pushing the non-motorized boats. And I can understand why we wouldn't do that, because you're using that same facility, same wear and tear on the docks. You could go to the beach and launch your own kayak and not use the dock, not pay the fee. So I can see that. The only thing I wonder about is we put in that accessible kayak launch for folks in wheelchairs. They wouldn't have the ability to use the beach. So I wonder if there's I know that's I don't know how many people even use it, but that might be the one place where I could say, like if I bring my kayak down to the beach, it's no problem. Or to the docks. I'm going to use the beach or the dock. If I use the dock, I should pay for it. But I just wonder about people using that accessible kayak launch, whether there might be an exception made for them.
Administration's recommendation would be to avoid exceptions. In all honesty, the fee is very modest. And my comparison would be the golf course. If you don't use a cart, then you don't pay a cart fee. If you have a disability and need to utilize a cart, you need to pay the $210 cart fee. So, there should be a cost associated with utilizing our facility. And in this case, I think it's very modest.
Yep. Okay, all in favor?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And it is a modest fee for the amount of money that's been spent. And we just had a presentation with another $100,000 going to be spent this summer down there for enhancements for a total all around accessibility. So carried. Thank you very much. So up next, we have a report on Northern Ontario Resource Development Fund, the Nords. Mr. Verbo.
In November 2021, the province launched a new municipal infrastructure initiative, the Northern Ontario Resource Development Fund, or the acronym Nords. It's targeted to support northern municipalities with their infrastructure projects over the next 5 years. The new fund will share the benefits of mining and forestry with municipalities and complement existing funding streams such as OSIF for building infrastructure. All 144 northern municipalities will be eligible for Nords funding. Allocation amongst the communities based on household counts. The province will require municipalities to demonstrate how their capital projects can advance opportunities in resource development, or how the projects will address or mitigate the impacts of resource development on infrastructure. The resource development activities do not need to occur within a municipality's boundaries to have an impact. Projects may include capital repair or upgrading of existing infrastructure, or the construction of new infrastructure to reduce the impact of resource industry use, or upgrading existing or constructing new infrastructure to attract future use by the resource industries. Marathon's annual allocation is $110,194. So for over 5 years, that will total $550,972. Options are enter into a transfer payment agreement with the province for the allocation of Nords funding, or forego the grant and fund capital projects through other means. Administrations recommend that option A be selected, authorizing administration to enter into a transfer payment agreement with the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources, and Forestry.
Thank you for that report, Mr. Verbo. I have a motion here that council hereby accept the attached report and recommendation on Northern Ontario Resource Development Fund, the Nords, contribution agreement, and that the administration is authorized to enter into a transfer payment agreement with the province of Ontario, Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources, and Forestry for the allocation of the Nords funding. And further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the agreement on behalf of the municipality. Moved by
Councillor Valens.
Mr. Tabucci.
Councillor Valens, Councillor Debuchy. Any questions of Mr. Verbo? Pretty straightforward. Councillor Debuchy.
Yeah, when we refer to infrastructure, and I'll use the most times we think of infrastructure of water, sewer, and roads. Our existing arena, would that fall under infrastructure? Because in the interim, or until we find ways of funding a new facility, could we use that to, I'll say, keep the existing arena going under this program?
I would have to check, but I'm pretty sure it would be able to, because we could say that uses of employees of resources industries have resulted in the asset being used.
Okay, so the other follow-up to that would be then, because we don't have a plan in place right now and we're allocated a yearly amount, can we forego the spending of it, or does it until one big project, or do we have to spend it every year within that 5-year period?
No, they can be pancaked or can consolidate.
Stackable.
Stackable,
Okay.
sorry, stacked.
Okay. And even if we accept, I'm sorry, may I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Because of this issue and the fact that we had asked administration to look at a stopgap or whatever for the existing arena, from that perspective, and being allowed to pancake this deal, would be, if another program came available, like I can't remember what it was for recreation, can we piggyback all our funds into that situation and or a new arena?
I'm pretty sure right now there's 3 funds that we have recognized in the bank. That is the federal gas tax, OSIF, and now there's Nords that all can be lumped together to use on one project.
All stackable, yeah, all stackable, all good. So the government's recognizing the needs of the municipalities, allowing us to kind of fund the monies where we see more appropriate and get one big job done rather than many little jobs and have to spend it annually. Councillor Lake?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely awesome. We've always said we wanted stable funding that we can rely on. Just as a point of comment, I would say, it feels like getting crumbs back from the loaf when you think about the tax money the province has taken out of Hemlo and out of the forest, and we're getting $100,000 back a year. It's we're going to take the money, we'll spend it as wisely as we can, but it's a little insulting to see that minuscule amount come back from the resources that have been taken out of the ground here.
So actually, over the last couple of years, Councillor Lake, we've been very successful in lobbying through NOMA and AMO to increase those funds through the OSIF and now the Nords, and of course the Young funding is one of the big ones for us, which is about 1.7 million. But the OSIF has doubled over the years, over the last couple of years, and then with the gas tax, that's a federal program that's administered through AMO. We're doing okay. We're doing pretty good in regards to the grants and subsidies that are coming back to the municipality. And yeah, you're right. Sometimes it feels like crumbs, but it is a substantial amount. It's adding up quite nicely.
Yeah.
Great. With that being said, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Great. Thank you for that report, Mr. Verbo. Up next, we have the report on the 2021 tax adjustments. Mr. Verbo.
Each year, adjustments are required to the town's tax accounts. The adjustments recognize a change in the assessment role, decisions of the assessment review board, clerical errors, and the realization that some accounts are uncollectible. This is a necessary procedure to provide us with an accurate picture of our true financial position. Any adjustments to our tax accounts requires a motion of council under the provisions of our municipal tax collection policy and various sections of the Municipal Act. The total amount to be written off in 2021 against tax receivable is $97,149.79, where $80,000 is the municipal share and the remaining $17,000 is the education share. The municipal portion is comprised of 19,000 for reduced assessment. So for example, when a fire happens and impacts us, this amount of assessment can be written off. Charities, which is only the Children's Aid Society currently, town-owned properties, and the uncollectible for $1,400. The 2021 write-offs in our statement of operations is $80,097. The budget amount for 2021 write-offs was $155,184. We had expected to write off the curling club, but luckily we managed to find someone on a tax sale. So administration recommends the amount of $97,149.79 as detailed in the attached schedule be written off in 2021.
Great, thanks for that report. I do have a motion here. The council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on 2021 tax adjustments, and further that the amount of $97,149.79 as detailed in the report be written off in 2021. Moved by
Councillor Lake.
Bucci.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bucci, any questions?
Just a
Councillor
comment.
Bucci?
Yeah. Just a comment that I appreciate the administration's diligence in contacting people who are arrears in taxes and making some kind of repayment plan, because from this year we've only had to basically consider $1,400 as uncollectible, where in past years it's been somewhat higher. So I appreciate the administration's efforts and of getting the payment plans and making sure people don't go into arrears if possible.
Just a point of clarification, that uncollectible is the Ford government, when they presented the 2021 budget, had tried to have federal government properties pay a higher education rate. And the federal government said no. So I've written it off because it's not collectible.
Okay, thanks. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have a report on the Marathon Taxi Bylaw number 2019. Ms. Gauthier, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. At the January 10th, 2022 Council meeting, administration was directed to give our current taxi bylaw a modern-day rewrite. The Town of Marathon's taxi bylaw was last revised in 2009, well over 10 years ago. Any revisions or amendments must be brought forward for Council's approval. As part of this bylaw modernization process, the Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Officer consulted with the current local taxi operator on the proposed changes as well as solicited feedback. Based on the feedback received and research done, a new bylaw reflecting current amendments has been developed. The following highlight the major changes. Removing the rideshare programs from the definition of taxi so that in future, if a rideshare programs are sustainable here, they can be ran without a bylaw amendment. It includes required hours of operation. Removing the short form wording and associated fines. So historically, any contravention of the taxi bylaw had associated fines. Going forward, if any part of the bylaw is in contravention, the license holder will have their license revoked instead of a fine after appropriate warning has been provided. This avoids companies eating the fines and not fixing the contravention. And lastly, this new bylaw includes rider rights. The RFP will be developed shortly and expected to launch on March 1st of 2022. Financial implications, none at this time. Options: A, adopt bylaw number 2019. B, do not adopt bylaw number 2019. C, direct your administration to make any changes to bylaw numbers 2019. Your administration recommends option A be selected and bylaw number 2019 be passed and adopted.
Thank you for that report. I do have a motion in front of me that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on Town of Marathon Taxi Bylaw number 2019, and further that the appropriate bylaw be 2019 be adopted later in this meeting. Moved by
Councillor Lake.
Thank you.
Councillor Valens.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Lake?
Yeah, just one. I read the rider's Bill of Rights, which kind of made me laugh because you can request a silent ride, and I wish I had that when I had my kids in the car. But I just wonder, it's a nice list, actually. Is that something that will be in the taxis have to post in their cabs so that riders kind of know what those things are? Because I think it's the kind of thing that a rider would be worth knowing. It's the only thing I saw.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think it should be included in the taxi, so riders do know their rights.
Yeah, Councillor Lake, if you go to the city, you see a lot of the rules are spelled out in the backseat of a cab. As soon as you get in, you see the rules within the cab. So it's a great idea, and I think we could incorporate that as part of the requirements for the taxi licenses, that they post those riders' rights as well as any other municipal ordinances that they must follow. Councillor Debuchy.
Yes, I see that no single license holder can own 60% of the licenses. So in our case, that would mean how many licensed or vehicles would be on the road under the current holder, I'll say.
Mr. Skorczynski, do you have that information? I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, so our licensing is quite simple. It's based on population. So council has the ability to award up to 5 licenses based on a 5,000 general population. Within the bylaw, 60% can be awarded, which is 3 licenses.
Okay.
The one change we've made to this bylaw is that if a successful operator had 3 licenses and wished to put 2 more vehicles on the road or 1 more vehicle, they could request that and council could approve that. So it just gives more flexibility within the bylaw, knowing that our population is likely to increase in the coming years, for council to make sure all 5 licenses are utilized in the proper manner.
Okay, so just to follow up on that, I just wanted to make sure, because sometimes in past times, the licenses or taxis have been gone out for long hauls and there hasn't been any available. So that addresses that issue. My other question is, in this day and age, I guess, of workers' rights, and I guess the taxi drivers would have work rights also, has the licensee asked that there be a driver's or operator's rights that they are and be posted? And is there any ramifications other than the criminal code that protects their drivers under this license or bylaw? Sorry.
That didn't come up during our conversation with the local holder. However, whoever is awarded the RFP, that's something that we can definitely discuss with them at that time.
That would be a business owner's responsibility, and they do have that ability, just like anybody else operating a business. You know, if you have unruly patrons, or those can certainly be, if they wanted to create a driver's rights and have those posted as well, that would be beholden on the operator, and we would certainly support that within reason.
Okay, with the mover and seconder's permission, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that report. Okay, up next we have a motion for the accounts payable, and the motion is following December 2021 check runs be approved for payment. Accounts payable $434,076.76. Payroll in the amount of $192,626.76. Moved by
Councillor Valls.
Councillor Valls. Councillor Lake. Any questions of those accounts payable? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. Some quick updates in regards to some of the sessions that took place over the last little while. Of course, we had Roma in February. Myself and Mr. Skorczynski attended on behalf of the Town Marathon. And of course, these were items that council had discussed previous to that request. Marathon met with the Parliamentary Assistant Dave Smith, Miss Northern Valley Mines on the Peninsula Harbour Port Authority, that working together with Bitagon Anishinaabe, and the importance of that project and how it would enhance opportunities for marine travel in our community. And of course, up to speed and talk more about the opportunities around Marathon Palladium project and the 350 to 400 full-time permanent jobs over a 13 or 14-year life of mine, and about the economic impacts, and of course, working with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund funding opportunities projects for the housing development if need be. Second, the meeting was with Minister Samira in regards to the Minister of Infrastructure for the funding for of course, our community recreation projects, specifically our active living center. And of course, that is something we continue to bring forward and bring suggestions about what we can do and how we can do it and how we can create programs where we can work with the government and have a long-term funding model. She was very pleased with our presentation again, but also very straightforward and said there was just no monies at this time to deal with that type project, but keeping us in the loop and in the system, and fully appreciated our presentation on that, as well as the North Shore Gas project. Brought it up to speed, and we want to get this thing done. And Mr. Skorchinski highlighted that about how important it was for the communities. This has been a project that's been on the book since 2015. We missed the first round of the $130 million funding opportunities to get our project in, but we made sure we brought it to their attention again to talk about the importance of this project, and of course, not only for the homeowners, but the business community. Then we met with Minister Piscini, the Minister of Environment and Conservation and Parks in Ontario. A very good meeting, very positive on the process of the Marathon Planning Project. And we just talked about the importance of the speed once it gets past the panel review and into the minister's federal and provincial's desk for final approval once the panel has done their due diligence. He was very supportive, and obviously there's an election in Ontario in the spring, though, in June. So we're hoping that all things go well, and that minister's office is fulfilled with the same person, because he's very keen on the project, very understanding, and he also is working with administration, and Mr. Skorchinski is working with his office to arrange a meeting with the federal minister, Minister Guilbeault, to talk about this with Minister Haidu and as well as Minister Piscini, and have all the players at the same table, so that when time comes, it's really just a straightforward process. Then I had the opportunity. Do you have anything to add to that, Mr. Skorchinski, or? Okay, good, thanks. Opportunity to meet with NOMA, Phenom, and NASDA and talk about some very key issues going and happening to our communities all throughout Northern Ontario. Housing crisis in the north, this was a big topic, and we all know that there's a housing shortage throughout all of Ontario, but specifically in Northwestern Ontario and Northeastern Ontario, we're seeing huge demands, no different than they are in Southern Ontario, but we brought that to your attention. And of course, with Dr. Newberry's support in regards to the presentation around the doctor shortage, how this has an impact on our mental health, and mental health is also impacting all our legal systems, our healthcare systems, housing. There's just a wide range of items that it impacts. So we did the presentation on that, and of course, on the mental health comes with drug use and opiate use. We have a huge problem in Northern Ontario. We like to put our hands in the sand and say that we don't have an issue. We do have an issue with opiates as well as meth, and we're dealing with through the police. But the impact it has on mental health is enormous. So that's impacting all across the north. So we brought that to the attention with the ministers, and the mental health is overwhelmed, and there's no services there. As we all know, individuals, they go and they get counseled. They see somebody, they feel good, they stop taking their meds. They go back in a vicious cycle, right back into the street drugs and the alcohol, and then they're not taking their meds, and then they're right back into the mental health aspect, and then under care or in jail. So it's a really mind-boggling situation we're faced with throughout the province, throughout the country. But we're bringing the representation through our agencies, NOMA, Phenom, and NASDA. NASDA is Northern Ontario Service Deliveries Association, so it has huge impacts on them. Then, of course, NOMA met with many ministers in regards to our issues for Northwestern Ontario. And, we talked about the economic recovery plan through COVID-19. The Conservation Land Tax Incentive Program was an item that we continued to focus on. The funding, as we talked about in our presentation from Mr. Verbo, that is a 1.7 million roughly. We continue to lose a little bit of money each and every year, but we ask for that formula to be stable, and the funding be stable, and don't penalize the communities such as Marathon for financial stewardship. Make it a fair and equitable funding model that we all get the same amount based on the assessed values and the populations in our community. So the minister heard us. They committed to the $500 million fund to continue on, and that'll be there. The sale of Crown land was another topic we talked about in regards to how this has impact. That, prime example, Marathon has a huge geographic boundary, 20 square kilometers. But if we wanted to sell some lots outside the town proper that's on Crown land, it's almost impossible. The process is many years. So we asked for that to be reduced, the red tape to be reduced. So if we want to build a subdivision within the municipal boundaries, that we want to provide water and sewer and such, we could go ahead and do it with really very little, impact to the municipality, and full support from the government. So they heard us, and they're going to look at that. Of course, payment in lieu of taxes, we has to basically drop this. This is where we get beds and heads, you know, the hospitals, the schools, we get payment in lieu for those, and it hasn't changed since 1987. So we just told Mr. Clark, take it off the agenda. Let's not talk about it no more. And they said we're not going to address it. It's not a priority in their process for the election or anything. So then, of course, railway taxation was another big one. We want this to go forward, and we want them to go after the CPCNs in the world. We finished the meeting. I pulled up right after that. In the 3 quarters of 2021, CP made 1.9 billion. That's a B, billion dollars in profits, and they're saying they can't sustain any more taxation. Well, it's not an increased taxation. It's a level of difference of taxation. Yes, there will be an impact, but we'll see. If Marathon was to take the full tonnage example through our municipality of 20 square kilometers, we would probably see about $430,000. Right now, we're receiving $100,000, roughly 130. We would see a huge increase in that, so it'd be beneficial to us. Another big one for all of us, as we all know through our own budget process, insurance. Insurance is killing us, so we asked for that to be looked at through the government's eyes, and how do we reflect that? The insurance premiums have just really almost doubled in the last couple of years for a lot of municipalities, so it's really, really impacting us. Then AMO was quite a huge meeting that we had. Of course, it always is. It's about 250 pages typically of our agenda, and I'm just going to highlight some of the key things we talked about. You know, the blue box, as we all know, we're impacting. I think that's going to be a good thing for us. We'll eventually get out of that $200,000 fee over the next couple of years, so we can focus our dollars somewhere else. There was presentations on the AMO task force for the new housing and affordability framework, which is part of the AMO process as well. And again, talk about the implication of long-term care. And as you know, with the announcement we just received on last Friday, that Marathon received through NOSM 14 beds, $5 million project. So that'll start this year. So that's a good thing for Marathon. That's part of the AMO overall process to fight with government to make sure that our voices are heard. And it sounds like our voices were heard. We're going to get some good opportunities to develop more beds for our community. And then a modernization update in regards to conservation authorities. And then we had all the presentation from all the different county caucuses. The Enterprise Center talked about the LAS programs that we're fully involved with and give us updates on that. And we receive a lot of discounts through the LAS program. The membership committee, and then we had administration and Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Long-Term Care, standing committees, legislative updates, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, letter of update in regards to the housing, AMO's letter of Honorable Steve Clark in regards to the mental health, all the stuff we talked about, Phenom and NOMA, but it's all AMO's work on it too. And of course, the Ontario Innovation Showcase release, as well as other business brought forward by the members, was many different impacts it's having throughout the province of Ontario from municipalities. It was a long meeting. And then last and not least, we had the Marathon Police Services Board. We're still missing one appointment from the provincial government. And we talked about our community safety plans. As you know, we're working with Manitowocq. We now have to incorporate Manitowocq Marathon and Bitagon Nishnabee as part of the board structure. So that plan that is being worked on between Marathon and Manitowocq right now will be presented to the solicitor's office for approval. And then we talked a bit about the budget for the Police Service Board. As you recall, I brought back to our budget process an increase in that. And we also had our board member, Pinky McRae, ask for a discussion around honorariums for board members. And as you recall, I talked about that as an also for board members to be compensated in some instances so that we can attract new young professionals or young people in our communities to come and join our boards or our councils, where they don't feel that they're penalized by not getting compensation for the time they put in. And not all employers will give their people's time off with pay. So that was discussed. Then, of course, we talked a bit about the our community's problem with meth, and our detachment commander, Cam Duquesne, is on top of that. And Cam identified that their detachment is working and looking at how they can reduce that by having undercover and community services officers. We have a new community service officer starting in March, so there'll be more youth engagement as well as other things in the community through the schools, programs, education, just wandering around and getting a better feel for what's happening. And then, of course, there was discussion around youth increase in crime and activities from our youth. Well, that we relate that back to the COVID and a lot of absentee out of school, time on hands. So that was discussed. And then a crackdown on driving, texting, and speeding in our communities along our corridors and the highway system to and from the mines. So it was a good update, and we will have our next meeting in the spring this year. Any questions on any of those things? That's a lot to take in, but it was a lot of fun, as you can imagine. Up next, we have bylaw number 2019 being a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 1660 and to provide a licensing and regulating and governing of taxis and limousines and their drivers within the municipality of Marathon be read a first, second, and third time and finally passes 14th day of February 2022. Moved by
Councillor Reynolds.
I got Councillor Valance and Councillor Lake. Any questions of that bylaw? It pretty well addresses everything. There's one thing that I did speak to Mr. Skorczynski about. Whoever the successful candidate is, as you notice, the hours are still 10:30 during the week, Sunday to Wednesday, and then there will be a longer period of time, Thursday through Saturday. But the operator who is operating today did indicate that there's opportunity with the technology today to reach out. So if you were at an event or something that was running past that 10:30 timeline, so I think what we need to do, whoever the operator is going forward is going to be, is to make sure that they advertise that so that nobody feels like they're ever stuck, whether that's on a Monday or Sunday or Tuesday night, that there could be arrangements made with the local provider, the successful provider for the 3 licenses at least, that they can have a ride home in safety. You know, we want to make sure all the people in our community feel safe, that they have an availability of a ride, and that the existing provider said that they would definitely do that. They just weren't really promoting that. So we'd like to make sure that whoever the new successful contractor is promotes that type of thing through the work week rather than just the weekends. Okay? Anything else? I'll call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, Carrie, thank you. Okay, some new business discussion items. Discussion and regarding the filling of councillor vacancy in the Community Development Assistance Fund Committee. So we need somebody who would like to sit on that committee. Councillor Valance?
Yeah, with the Economic Recovery Fund kind of winding down and that coming to an end, if no one else wanted to take that vacant seat, I would definitely like to do it. So
great. So I'm going to put a mover and a second on the floor that the council hereby appoint the following councillor Community Development Assistance Fund Committee. So who moved by?
Councillor Lake.
The Councillor Lake, Councillor Debussy, and it sounds like Councillor Valance is okay to put his name forward to sit on that fund.
Okay.
Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Excellent.
And so the assistance fund that we put out for the business community, I signed a bunch of checks last week. Sounds like it was very successful, Councillor Valance. Can you give us a little update? Everything's done with that, or the committee resolved all the requests that were submitted?
So this is with the Economic Recovery Fund?
Yep.
Yeah, so it was open. It ran open for about, I want to say 4 to 5 weeks, and there was definitely some uptake this second round. So we're very excited, very happy that we chose to do this. I guess as a council, we would know that. And through administration, I guess he'd have better, Daryl, you'll have better numbers as to how many organizations and how many did partake this second round, but it was well received and very glad that we did it.
Yeah, we ultimately ended up approving 9 applications at $5,000 each, which amounted to $45,000. So, as Councillor noted, it was well received, and we got lots of positive feedback and council support of our local business sector.
Absolutely, and I received 4 direct compliments from 4 businesses in our community. So, and they're very appreciative and understood the importance of this economic recovery fund. $5,000 in that case was to offset the monies they lost through the last shutdown. So it's a good portion of the business that are in our community first round and second round that received funding that kept the doors open. So thank council for that, and I know the business community really appreciate that. Mr. Skorczynski?
Yeah, just a quick reminder for council from our budget meeting. What we discussed was if there was outstanding dollars from this round 2, that they would be redirected into the Community Development Assistance Fund as part of our budget process.
So it sounds like about $5,000 will go back over to that fund.
That's correct.
Great, thanks. Councilor Valens?
I just want to finish up by saying how proud I am to have had the opportunity to have chaired that program, and just thank you guys as a team for allowing me that opportunity. And again, very happy, very proud of the whole initiative. So
great. No, thanks for your time and appreciate it. So I think the business community and our community really appreciates it as well. So with that being said, we'll appoint Councilor Valens to that new committee, and it'll run right through till November 14th, 2022. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, joint health and safety. I get a motion here that the joint health and safety policy statement JHS 0001 as presented, and further a copy of this policy be placed in town's policy guideline. Need move for a second to put that on the floor.
Councilor Lake.
Councilor Tabucci.
Councilor Lake, Councilor Bush, any questions of that? Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Carrie, thank you. We got a request from NOMA. Councilor Lake is the one you declared on.
This is my declaration, yes.
I'll just ask you to shut your mic off. There you go. Thank you very much. I got a motion here that council hereby supports the attached resolution received from NOMA seeking support pertaining to expanding NOSM, and further that a copy of this motion be forwarded to an individual listed on the originating request. Moved by, I guess, Councilor Debuchy, and second by Councilor Valens.
Yes.
And any questions of that? Basically just stating, I'll read the therefore be resolved that the copy of this resolution, the medical NOSM is capacity to meet needs of Northern Ontario and with added MD positions, residency positions, 1, 3, and 4 in the clinical teaching funding in Northern Ontario Academic Medicine Association. This will enhance the opportunity for more students to be trained in our schools. And then, of course, with that, hopefully more students will stay in the north and provide services for our hospitals and clinics throughout northwestern Ontario. So that's the plan, and I think it's a great opportunity for increased student participation. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Carried, thank you. And I just marked Councilor Lake as the declaration. Okay. Up next, request received from the town of Aurora seeking support of their resolution pertaining to the dissolving of Ontario Land Tribunal, formerly the Ontario Municipal Board, and further that the copy of this motion be forwarded on to individual listed in the originating request. Moved by
Councilor Tabucci.
You can somebody can touch base with Councilor Lake to pump back in.
I'll move it if you need a mover.
Yeah, I got you down into the Councilor Lake, still not here. Okay, this one was just basically asking to dissolve the Ontario the Land Tribunal. The OMB, it's just a frustrating process, and it costs the municipalities a lot of time when they're tasked through the OMB and through the municipal land tax. Now the tribunal. So I don't know if anybody has any comments on it. I spoke to this at NOMA, and I think that NOMA supports it as well, but there hasn't come to our table. We got a board meeting in the end of February. Any questions? Councilor Debuchy? Your microphone?
Formerly when it was the municipal board, if a resolution of council or a council decision pertaining to zoning or the official plan wasn't acceptable to somebody, they went to the municipal board to make an appeal. Now they've transferred that authority over to the land tribunal. So in the event now that somebody doesn't agree with our official plan or how we zoned, what avenue do they have now if we dissolve the Ontario Land Tribunal? Is it now the power with all the municipalities, or was it go straight to the courts?
So my
Because that was
understanding,
one thing it was supposed to do, avoid court actions as opposed to if they had a disagreement with council.
right, so here's what happens. When we create our official plan and our zoning bylaws within that official plan, individuals, developers, anybody who typically objects to those official plans and zoning bylaws and amendments within the bylaws have the opportunity at that time to speak. We know, and I've been on council a long time, so have you, Councilor Debussy, nobody ever comes to the official zoning bylaw amendments or zoning official plan and redevelopment. But in bigger centers, they obviously, that's where we see the issues, right? They have every right to appeal to council, and council can revisit their decisions on their zoning or their official plan. So I'm not too sure. Mr. Skorczynski has his hand up. He'd like to comment on that as well.
Yeah, so really, and I agree with the mayor. This is something that we should support because, council approves official plans and zoning bylaws for a reason, and there are committees of adjustment for a reason. And with the OLT process, it takes that out of council's hands and puts it in the hands of, a non-resident body. And really what it, boils down to is, in the event that there was a contravention of the process by the municipality, then an individual can appeal that through tort law, right? Because it becomes a rule of law that was not followed. What this would eliminate, which is in our favor, is somebody who just didn't like the decision. They just appealed it on the fact that they didn't get what they wanted, or they didn't get what they asked for, and they're appealing it. So this would reduce all of that and make it a matter of law as opposed to a matter of disagreement. So this very much works in line with what an official plan and a zoning bylaw is supposed to establish.
Any other questions? So I'm not too sure if Council Lake's back on, but in regards to that, Ms. Lees, can you have this also sent off to NOMA? Just to make sure that we know that we've approved it and NOMA can send it back out to all I think it's went to all the other municipalities, but just in case, because I think it's an important tool for us and in the south as well. But I know there's much more big development and big money in the south, but regardless, as Mr. Skorczynski has identified, we have official plans, zoning bylaws, and a committees of adjustment for that very reason. So people have the opportunity to do the right thing if they so choose for it. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
No.
Okay, I'm in favor, so carry, because Councilor Lake is not back on, so we're good.
Councillor Lake has a technical issue, Your Worship. He's trying to log back in.
Okay, but for now, I'm just marking 3 at meeting because he's not a part of this process, so. Okay, and we have to go into an in-camera discussion following this public meeting to discuss personnel matters. This will be personnel matters about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board or employees, and this is going to directly follow this meeting of council. So we will adjourn at the hour of 5:12 of this meeting. And I want to take the opportunity to thank Darlene again for staying on the whole meeting and listening to our meeting, but also anybody at home. And again, once again, enjoy your holiday today, or your it's not really a holiday, but your Valentine's Day opportunity. Go for dinner and have a lovely evening. Thank you very much, and we adjourn at the hour 5:12 p.m. We're going directly into an in-camera meeting. Councillor Valance and Councillor Debussy second. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, so we'll wait for Ray. Get tuned
We're gonna
back
wait
in.
for Ray? Yeah.
Yeah, just gonna go quick bathroom break and then see if Ray's back in.